Okay, good morning. So we're up to Simon Shin Lamed Seif Gimel. The Mechaber says, Nikris Yoledes Lechal Shabbos. So we said when it comes to a lady in childbirth, you're allowed to Mechal Shabbos. And the Mechaber says in Gimel that you're allowed to call a Yoledes, a midwife, Lechalel Oleh Shabbos, Misheteshev ala Mishmah. In other words, at what point is she called the Yoledes that you can be Mechal Shabbos for her? So the Mechaber says, Misheteshev ala Mashber, when she is sitting on the birthing stool, i.e. she's in labor. Or when she starts bleeding. Or when her friends walk with her because she's unable to walk by herself. Once you've got one of these simonin, you can mechal Shabbos for her. That's when the definition of a yoledes begins, if you like. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Sifkot and Tes, Echod me'elu, v'davka le'in hadvar masher efshel asoisen bli ichur ve'ikuv lahachi tzarech lahamdin. Obviously anything where it's possible to wait and the delay is not a problem. Ad shenira echod mishlosh simonim ha'ela, one of these three signs, you wait for that moment. But if, of course, delaying is going to be problematic, then you do not delay. But if you want to try and you want to bring the midwife from quite a far off place, if you wait until she starts, she's unable to walk or she starts bleeding or something like that, then the midwife is going to be late in coming. So therefore, you actually need to call the midwife earlier, the doula, the lady to help her. And therefore you call her earlier, even if she's quite far away. Now there are two important footnotes here. Footnote number 12 and 13. That with regard to her sitting on the birthing stool, that means that she's got very heavy contractions and she's in a lot of pain. And also, but in Yuridas Mayim, if her waters break, that's not necessarily a siman muvuk of the beginning of labor. If her waters break, therefore that is at least a sofek and of pikuach nefesh, and therefore she's allowed to break Shabbos to go into the hospital. So therefore you've got various simonim when she's called a yoledes. Number one, when she is teishev ala mashber, she's beginning labor, that means heavy contractions, and she's in a lot of pain, or waters break, says Rosh Hashanah Orach, or when the dam is shoises v'yered, she's bleeding, or she's just unable to walk unaided, then you're allowed to mechal Shabbos from that moment in time. And again, you can call the midwife before that to make sure she's there at that point. Dalet. Kol shleisha yamim harishonim, the first 3 days, so now she's given birth. Mazel tov. So kol shleisha yamim harishonim, afilu amra einat tzricha, even if she says, I don't need anyone to be mechal Shabbos for me, I'm okay, nevertheless you don't listen to her. Mechal noles Shabbos, you're mechal Shabbos for this lady. Mishleisha ad shiva, from day 3 until day 7, Omra, if she says einat tzricha, then ein mechalin. From day 3 to day 7, it's already less of a concern, and therefore, if she says, "I don't need you don't need to make hot food for me or anything like that," ein mechalin. Mikan ve'elech, after day 7, afilu amra tzricha, and even if she says, "I need something," ein mechalin aleha. Ela harihi ad shleishim yom kechol she'en b'sakana. From day 7 through to day 30, she's got a din of v'chol she'en b'sakana, which means that you can tell a non-Jewish person to do even a deraisa, but not for a Jew to do Chillul Shabbos. Says the Mishnah Berurah Sivkot and Yud. Now, the question is, how do you calculate the 3 days? Is there 2 ways to calculate it? Either you calculate it me'es la'es. So, for example, if she gives birth on Wednesday afternoon, then it will be Thursday afternoon, Friday afternoon, Shabbos afternoon. So Shabbos morning, a Yisrael can make a hot chillul for her. But if you count it as not me'es la'es, it's just days, then Wednesday, if she gives birth Wednesday afternoon, then it's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Shabbos is not included. So how do you cheshbon the 3 days that the Mechaber is talking about? So says the Mishnah Berurah, Sivkot and Yud, we don't calculate it me'es leis Because again, if she gives birth in close proximity to Yom Kippur, we've got the same issue. With regard to her eating on Yom Kippur. And therefore, if she gives birth on a Wednesday, my example, the Wednesday afternoon, sort of late afternoon before Ben Hashmashas, Shabbos, therefore, since we don't reckon it at this stage, the Mishnah Berurah says me'es le'es, we consider it not me'es le'es, and therefore it's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Therefore, we don't mechal Shabbos unless she says shricha ani, which she's got a category of a chayla of a liyoledes from day 3 to day 7. Kain kosa mogen avram. Va'ayim b'simen tafresh zayin shemegamgem hagrob ma'id shom v'konstant lashon harosh perik muruba. Mashma shesovikim pshitas. The kavonas hakmor me'es le'es. That's how the Rosh learns. V'lo rak litzrutz the divrei bahag. Because he's not coming just to answer the bahag. V'chein much divrei hagrob behedjed shuvas harosh klal chavov simen gimel shesovikim pshitas. Va'ayin shom. V'chein mashma b'divrei haritbo perik Rabbi Lezam demila. Va'ayin beli rabba. Shekosim b'divrei isa v'heta. Gam kein mashma d'bein shlosh yom shleim. You actually need 3 full days. The Hainu Me'es Leis that he argues with the Magen Avram and says, no, you actually need 72 hours. V'achkach mosas b'sefer Nezi Yisrael b'shem Tshuvas Beis Ephraim shegam kein kosov kidvorenu. V'nimsa lefizeh, it's a bein le'inyan Melech HaShabbos or bein le'inyan Yom Kippurim, both regarding being Mechal Shabbos for Yoledes, or both regarding her eating on Yom Kippur. Ad Gimel Me'es Leis chashvin lo mesukenes. Until 72 hours, full 3 days, we consider her masukenes, and therefore you're allowed to cook and break Shabbos and do whatever she needs, even if she says, even if she doesn't say tzricha ani. Or megimel zayin, and from day 3 to day 7, me'es le'es is also me'es le'es, because tzricha ani, when she says, I need something, you can be mechal Shabbos for her. Yom Kippur, you certainly should be mekel. The solving the foshasu. Va'afilu in Shabbos gam kein im lo nizdamin lo ovid gechulim la'asus al yoda ashar al Yisrael. And also, given that there are many who are mekel and they count the Me'es Le'es, you can be semech on that if there is no non-Jewish person around who can do this Chillul Shabbos for you. Okay, Harishonim Yud Aleph. Migmar Leda is from the end of when she gives birth. Va'ayim be'halacha. Yud Beis. Afilu Amra ein tzricha. Even if she says I don't need. V'heim dvarim shechavrusei oimros shedover ze oisim lechai v'kol chai tzricha lekach. Others are saying that the midwives and other people are saying no, you need to have a warm bath, you need to have hot food or something, and she's saying I don't need. V'ein kan roife or mialedes chachoma liras is im chai hazoi tzricha lekach. And there's no medical expert. So in that situation, if she says afilu omer ein tzricha, even if she says ein tzricha for the day 3 to 7, then you still mechal Shabbos for her. Yud gimel mechalin to given to kol hayodas tzrichas lekach. Since all ladies who are giving birth need these sorts of things, warm food or maybe a warm bath or something, then you're allowed to do that. Maybe she could wait until the evening and it's a Motzei Shabbos. Nevertheless, even if she says I don't need it in the first 3 days, you are mechal Shabbos misafik and you don't listen to her. Why? Dilma chulshas hadas noctula. Maybe she's just sort of a bit disoriented, a bit weak, and therefore we ignore her and they from up the first 3 days we are mechal Shabbos for her to make her hot food or things like that. She doesn't just she doesn't think she needs hot food or she doesn't think she needs whatever it is. And this is the lashon of the Rashba. She should eat food. And the Rashba answered to musukenes anu choshven yoledes. We consider a yoledes as a musukenes. She's in danger. She's been bruised and battered through childbirth. And she doesn't really understand that. And if she only eats cold food, it could be dangerous for her. And therefore, she needs a good hot meal, and you're allowed to be Mechal Shabbos for her. If, however, there is a midwife there, or a doctor, that she's okay to have cold food. You don't really need to have a hot bath or whatever it is. Sheimin lohem, you listen to them. Shehar b'chayas she'eino isin lohem chamim b'chol yom, because many chayas don't have hot food every day. Because of Magen Avram, she'ach shav nagus hayoldas she'oichles chamin shel esmal b'Shabbos, they can have leftovers food from Friday and just warm it up on a hot plate without being mechal Shabbos. Ad kan l'sheinei. Mikom nira da kol fi ha'chole. It all depends on what the chole feels. Now mishloishav ad shiva, from day 3 to day 7, there we say, if she says ein not tzricha, then ein mechalin. But if she says tzricha, then you are mechal Shabbos. That's day 3 to 7. Says Mishabur Yudalid, Omra ein tzricha. Lefisha ein becheskas musukenes. From day 3 to 7, she's no longer in danger. She's not becheskas musukenes. Le'osin advarim sheregilis chavrosei lasus la. V'oi shechol lahamdin, and she can really wait till Motzei Shabbos. Lefichach soimchin oleh k'shemeres ein tzricha. And therefore, if she says ein tzricha, we listen to her. That's only if she says it explicitly. But if it's not sure, then you can be mechal Shabbos for her too. Because she is, after all, in some degree of danger. If the doctor or the midwife says she needs it, then for sure you're mechalin. Even if she says not. But if her friends say, yeah, you could do with a hot meal, if the chaya says not and the friends say yes, you listen to the chaya, the midwife. If the midwife says she needs, the chai means the mother that she's given birth. So if the mother says I need, and if 100 doctors says she doesn't need, you listen to her. Why? Because everyone knows their own distress. If you look at note 17, he says Dafka, where the lady herself says, listen, I need a hot drink, but if it's medical things, I need a certain medication, then we listen to the doctors more than her. An important footnote. Okay, let's just finish off. Tesvav, Mikan Veilech, from day 7 to day 30, then she's no longer Mesukenes, she's got a din of a Chole she'ein bo sakona, and you can't get a Yisrael to Mechal Shabbos, but you can get a non-Jewish person to Mechal Shabbos for her. Why? So long as we know that there's no other illness associated with her childbirth or anything else, we don't need to do all these things, and therefore certainly she can wait till Motzei Shabbos. And she can get a non-Jewish person to do it for her. So in short, with regard to a lady after childbirth, from up to the first 3 days, we are there's machlekes if it's me'ez le'ez or not, and we're mekel if need be, if there's no non-Jewish person there, then you are mechal Shabbos, even if she says she doesn't need it. You're mechal Shabbos for to make sure she has hot food or whatever is necessary. From day 3 to 7, if she says ein tzricha, I don't need it, ein mechalin. However, if there's a suffix, or if she says tzricha, then for sure you're mechal Shabbos. And from day 7 through to day 30, she's got a din of a chole she'ein besakana, where you can tell a non-Jewish person to do a deraisa, but not a Yisrael. Yisrael can do maybe a drabonon al day shinu, because of like any other chole she'ein besakana. Okay.